So I'm on this run at Torrey Pines State Park in San Diego. And I'm on this part where you have to go up this steep hill. And I'm huffing and I'm puffing. And I keep checking my watch, checking my pace. I want to post a decent time. Why? Because my son, who's not really a runner, had recently moved to San Francisco, joined like 3 run clubs, and now he's posting better times than me. Now, I don't care if I'm 30 years older. That is some kind of bullshit. For personal pride, I need to post a good time. So I'm huffing and I'm puffing, and the only thing that makes this palatable is that I have one of my favorite playlists on. And I think we forget what a wonderful innovation digital music was. And for those of you too young to remember, in the old days, if a song came out that you liked, you had to buy the whole album. Remember that? Even if there's only one song you liked, you had to buy the whole album, skip through it. It was a pain. Now, you can curate all these playlists, create whatever vibe you want. It's wonderful. The thing I did not know when I was going up the hill right then is that digital music has a lesson to teach us about business model transformation. And I'm going to come back to that. So I get done with my run, shower up, start my day, look at my email. There's an email in there from George Humphrey, who you're going to hear from tomorrow. And it's titled AI 20 Index. Now, for those of you that don't know, TSIA, there are several financial indexes that we track every quarter to understand the health of the technology industry. So we have the TNS 50, 50 of the largest tech companies on the planet. We've been tracking that for 20 years. We have the Cloud 40, 40 large publicly traded cloud companies. And so George, in this email, says, well, we should have an AI 20 index. 20 publicly traded companies making their money around AI. And I'm thinking, brilliant, I wish I would have thought of that. So I open up his spreadsheet, super excited to see what this data shows. And I have to tell you folks, what I saw was stunning. And I don't mean in a good way stunning. So the most recent snapshots here, the TNS 50, last snapshot, their operating income on average is at 19%. That's phenomenal. And that index, those companies have been very profitable for the 20 years we've been tracking. The Cloud 40, their average operating income, 3%, which doesn't look great. 2 years ago, that was negative 8%. And then SaaS companies got the memo that unsustainable business models are unsustainable. They've been working on profitability. Some companies in that index, like Salesforce, are very profitable. And then along comes the AI 20. Negative 29% operating income. Stunning. Now, when I saw this, I immediately thought of this South Park episode. Okay, now I'm not a big South Park fan, but I know this one episode where the main characters from South Park meet these gnomes. Do you know this episode? And the gnomes are stealing underwear and hoarding it in a cave. And the South Park characters say, like, what are you doing? And the gnomes say, well, this is our business. And the South Park characters say, like, what do you mean this is your business? How do you make money? And they said, no, we have a foolproof 3-phase business plan. Phase 1, steal underwear and hoard it. Phase 2, something. Phase 3, profit. So I have to tell you, I kind of feel like that's what's going on with these AI companies. We have, phase 1, I'm going to create some really cool AI capabilities. Phase 2, something. Phase 3, profit. So I see this, and now I'm really curious. I got to research this. There's got to be a talk track. These AI companies have to have a talk track. And I figured, I would start this. Well, of course, the other thing that's in the back of my mind here is the report that JB put on the table, right? And the fact that this very week, which I'm looking at this AI 20 index, there's this report out there that's saying enterprise companies are not getting, a lot of return from AI. Is this really a bubble? Is this just a lot of hype? So these 2 thoughts are on the table, right? I'm sitting there thinking about them in San Diego. are the business models, how are they going to become profitable? Is this whole thing a big bubble? Where's this going to go? These are the moments that TSIA researchers live for. This is what AI economics, our efforts here, are all about. Where is this thing, going to go? And, first of all, we believe that this AI disruption is not going away, right? This is not a bubble. And I want to remind everybody that in the late 90s, when the internet was taken off, they did a survey for people that spend dollars on advertising, and 68% of those people said, this internet thing, I'm not sure there's really a return there. Can you imagine today being a B2B company, a B2C company, right? And you're not making you're not out there advertising. It's insane. But I will say that there's a difference in terms of the emergence of the internet and the emergence of AI. I lived in Silicon Valley in the late 90s when the internet was taken off, and I have to tell you, it was rainbows and unicorns, okay? Nothing but upside. The internet was going to connect all of us. We were going to build community. We were going to learn from each other. Now, we know how some of that worked out. But anyway, we were super excited, super excited. AI feels different. AI feels different. This is more like the coming of the Borg. All right, resistance is futile. Andreessen is saying, all you incumbents, you're gone. Your service business, those people are gone. AI is coming for your job, and it's coming for your job, and it's coming for your job. This is like some scary shit. But we believe it is coming, right? We were very early on the record, over 2 years ago, we said publicly, AI is going to take jobs out of tech business models. And we were saying that when all the CEOs were saying, no, it's just like the internet. It's rainbows and unicorns. It's just going to make all of us more productive. It's going to be great. 2 years later, it's a different story. These CEOs are out there saying, we're excited. We just got rid of 4,000 people, right? That has become, a feature, not a bug. And every main tech company out there has decoupled revenue growth from headcount growth. The game plan in every boardroom is I'm going to keep growing revenue and have flat or less people. So this is not going away. That's number one. You've got to be ready for this. Number two, and JB talked about this, AI does create a new competitive landscape. And I want to remind everybody what you've been through for the last 20 years. 20 years ago, there were hardware companies like Sun and SGI and DEC. And there were software companies like SAP and Oracle. And there were service companies like the big SIs. And then software started to eat hardware. Oracle bought Sun. And if you're a hardware company in this room, software is a really important part of your business now, right? The next thing that happened is as a service started to eat everything. SaaS, subscription, managed services. So for the last 20 years, everybody in this room, you've been navigating those changes on your business model. Now along comes AI. What's going to happen here? So right now, if you look out there, you have these big AI engine providers like an OpenAI, Google. You have all these startups, AI apps, building applications and platforms around those engines. And you have these AI consultancy companies, service companies saying, hey, hire me, I can get rid of half of your support people. That's the current landscape. The first move we predict, engines are going to eat apps. What do I mean by that? OpenAI is raising their hand saying, hey, we're happy to do a $10 million consulting project with you. Why? Because they're not going to just keep selling this engine. They can't make money just doing that. They're going to climb up. They're going to build enterprise-class applications to solve problems that they can stamp out, across the market. That's coming your way. So that's already happening. The second thing is we believe outcomes eat consumption. A lot of the pricing right now in AI is very consumption, how much you're using, I'm going to charge you something for that. The end game for this is going to be business value and outcomes. So this is what you're going to be navigating over the next X amount of years, but this is not going to take 20 years to unfold. And companies like Palantir are already playing this game on the far right, already about complete solutions. Now, we also believe, as we look at this, that companies are going to have to land on a profitable business model. You just cannot keep collecting billions and billions of dollars. And by the way, so I want to play you a video, and I was doing this research. I wanted to know what OpenAI's plan was to become profitable, because they're a non-profit, but they want to become a for-profit. They're getting tens of billions of dollars in investments. I'm doing this research, I'm like, well, clearly there's a talk track here. And I find this interview where Sam Altman is literally asked this question. Tell me what your business model is, right, from the person interviewing him. His response is stunning. And I want to play it for you right now. You just have to see this.
Google has business units and it's got objectives, and it just seems like OpenAI is so sort of amorphous, but it is a business. So I'm just wondering, like, eventually, is the idea to kind of like license technologies? Will you have customers that you're going to be customizing algorithms for them, or how is it going to work?
The honest answer is we have no idea. We have never made any revenue. We have no current plans to make revenue. We have no idea how we may one day generate revenue. We have made a soft promise to investors that once we've built this sort of generally intelligent system, basically we will ask it to figure out a way to generate an investment return for you. Sounds like an episode of Silicon Valley. It really does.
I can't make this shit up. It's a real answer. Cannot stand. Cannot stand. We believe there's at least two moves on the chessboard for your companies to have profitable business models as AI eats through our industry. And the first one, JB put it on the table, is around pricing. And we believe ultimately pricing is going to have to be anchored on business value. Now, people are already starting to talk about the different pricing models that are out there for AI. There's a book called Monetizing Innovation. They talk about this. So you do have still user-based pricing. You have consumption-based pricing like OpenAI. You do have some outcome-based pricing. Palantir does that. Also, people are doing it in things like, if I'm going to charge you for how many support tickets I actually close, right? So a lot of different models. We're starting to chip on this, and we see this world unfolding that there's really kind of four options you have on pricing AI. You could do user-based. You could do what we call cost-based consumption. Somebody's going to do a click. I'm trying to figure out how much does it cost me to serve that. I'm going to try to put some margin on top of that. You could do outcome-based consumption, which is that example of I'm only going to charge you if you get some type of outcome, like a closed support ticket. Or you could go for true outcome-based pricing. I'm going to implement an AI solution, which is going to save you $10 million, and that's going to cost you $1 million. It's a great deal, okay? This is the journey we think all of you are on, is climbing this pricing ladder. So user-based pricing, we've already been hearing this for over almost 2 years now. Everybody knows that dog is not going to hunt anymore, right? Because the number of employees is flat or going down. We got to move off that. So everybody's saying, I got to jump over this thing called consumption-based pricing. But we believe if you stay in this cost-plus mentality on consumption-based pricing, you are going to be sad. There's too much value leakage. If you implement some AI technology that saves your customer $10 million, and you got X amount, $100,000 from clicks or whatever, you're not going to be happy. You got to climb this ladder and get to outcomes. The second move on the chessboard here, to have a profitable AI business model, is about services, which is good, right? You get service people in the right place here? Okay. So there is a lot of work to be done. That MIT report is really talking about the fact that enterprise is struggling with what they call the last mile. Okay, I got some cool AI technology, but how do I really unlock the value? Customers need help setting up their environment, AI governance, what kind of capabilities do I need? They need help getting the initial value, build my AI agents, tune the models. And then, this is what's different in AI, there's ongoing value management. The agents need tuned, the models need tuned, the data's changed, the workflow's changed. This is a lot of service opportunity. Now tomorrow, George Humphrey is going to talk to you about where we see the service portfolio going. He's going to talk about the next generation service offers. He's going to also put on the table some of our initial thinking on how we believe org structure is going to change. So that is a really important thread for us and for you. But let me bring the lens back and just talk about making money. 4 ways you can take money off the table around AI. Number 1, you can charge to access the technology. Number 2, like OpenAI is saying, I can do some consulting around that, pay me for that. Project-based services, we know that. There are recurring offers, premium support, managed services. And then ultimately, you could do outcome offers where you basically say it's product, services together for a solution that's going to give you some type of quantifiable business value. 4 ways. Now, in the wild already, we see these models in play. OpenAI, monetizing the technology, now just starting to think about project-based services. Massively unprofitable. Massively unprofitable. Palantir, you folks know Palantir? They do it all. They have the complete stack. You can access technology, they have project-based services, they have recurring services, they have value-based offers, and that is a profitable company. And their most recent results, their OI is even higher. Anybody know the valuation of Palantir, the revenue multiplier? Okay, you ready for this one? So back in the day, if you were a high-flying SaaS company and you were valued at 20, 30 times revenue, that was huge. That was huge. Average SaaS multiplier nowadays is around 8, okay? Palantir, valuation, 100 times revenue. 100 times revenue. And they're not the only ones. I don't know if you guys saw this. Here's a little startup called Distill, started by former Palantir employees. First round, they raised $175 million, right? 9 months later, they're over $1.8 billion. That's insane. Now, I want you to really onboard this. Back in the day, actually not back in the day, today, most of you work for product companies, and what's the mantra? We want to grow products because that's a great multiplier and it's scalable and investors love that, and we want to keep this service thing kind of small. Does that sound familiar to everybody in this room? Absolutely. Because services doesn't get a good multiplier, investors don't like it, yada, yada. This is a new market signal. Palantir, Distill are service companies with technology. And their valuations are kicking your valuation's ass. Has the script flipped here? And why do I think this is happening? Because investors are saying, look, there's going to be a lot of money made deploying enterprise AI, and guess what? It's going to require services. It's going to have to be companies that have the complete thought, not just pushing technology. The market is already sending that signal. I was in a discussion with Jody Paxton, who used to be a researcher at TSIA, and now she's at Microsoft. And I was sharing some of these thoughts we have on AI economics, and she's a very smart person, and I wanted to get her perspective. And we were going back and forth on some of these thoughts. And we were talking about the posture of services with companies. And there's 4 ways your companies could be thinking about services as you deploy AI capabilities. Number 1, there are companies out there, AI startups, who are like, we don't need services. Super simple, people just download it, boom, boom, we're done. Okay, that's one model. Second model, yeah, we have some services, bare minimum. We don't charge for them. It's too much of a hassle. We're going to make our money on the product. Third model, we have some services that are free, maybe like a forward deployed engineer to help a customer understand how they could use AI. And then we're going to follow through some services that we are definitely going to monetize. And the fourth posture, our companies are saying, look, I've got some of the smartest people on the planet around AI, and you want to access them, you are going to pay. Make sense? 4 models. Our assertion, there's only 2 winning models for profitable AI in B2B. B2C, maybe you get enough volume. But B2B, it's either a combination of free and monetized services, or you are charging for all your services. This is an important message to take back. So as JB said, I mean, this battle is beginning. Everybody's racing. You want this market share. You want to be successful in this next generation. And as JB already put on the table, we do believe, incumbents, folks in this room here, you have some advantages. Here's one thing that was missed in that MIT report. One of the survey questions they ask, your customer and enterprise, who do you want to work with to help you implement AI? You know who they want to work with? They want to work with you. Why? Because they trust you. You've been delivering success for them and technology. You're reliable. You have relationships. That is a massive asset. Do you know what your second massive advantage is? All the people sitting in this room. Your companies already have global service capabilities. You have direct, you have partners. OpenAI can, in their business plan, talk about building a $5 billion, a $35 billion service business, but they're not going to snap their fingers and do that. You know that. It's going to take them a while to build those muscles. You have those muscles. Now, you're going to have to retool these service organizations, again, which George will talk about, but these are 2 massive advantages. Don't squander them. But I will say, you do have an Achilles heel that we have to acknowledge. What I have seen is you are not good at business model transformation. Okay, so how do I know that? I've had a front row seat for the last 20 years watching a bunch of companies who used to be on-prem try to make it into the cloud and get over into as a service. That has been a shit show, let me tell you. There's just no other way to describe it. And you had 20 years to kind of, Salesforce is on, out here in 2000 or whatever. They're like, okay, we'll get there. You're not going to have 20 years with AI. But I am a little optimistic that there's going to be a fire that's going to be lit that's going to help you with this. And that takes us back to digital music. What is the lesson that it teaches us? When I realize it is this concept of pricing-led transformation. What is that? Well, if you look at how artists made money back in the day when we had albums, the majority of their money came from albums. And when they went on tour, it was basically break even. Who cares? I'm pushing my albums. Digital music comes out, albums go away, there's a pricing change. That forced them to change their business model. My daughter was at Beyonce's last concert of this last tour in Vegas. By the way, life-changing for everybody in that arena. Life-changing. So I've been told. But Beyonce is not doing that. But she has nothing better to do. She is spending millions on these tours because it is a critical source of revenue now. It's a new business model. So basically what we're saying is the pricing model changes. It's going to push your financial model. It's going to change your operating model. It's going to change the services you put on the table. And this is what we saw with as-a-service transformation, for those of you that did make progress there, right? Different pricing model. It meant a different financial model. It meant, oh my gosh, things like adoption, expansion, and renewal become super important. So now I have customer success. And you put different offers on the table in front of the customers. This is exactly what is going to happen with AI. And we don't know exactly how the operating models are going to unfold and exactly what services are going to, dust is going to settle. But again, this is not going to take 20 years. This is coming your way like right now. And as JB said, you guys can't afford to be unprofitable. So you're going to have to figure out new pricing models, again, which are not cost-based. We're losing money. You're going to have pricing models that keep margin in. So basically, this race to profitability is really 3 races that you need to be running now. One is this decoupling of revenue from headcount. Again, that train is coming your way. Everybody in this room, you should be looking for ways to do things more efficiently and effectively with AI. Those use cases are real. That technology is mature. We've got tons of examples in our portal on that. If you're not getting leverage from AI already, you're behind. You've got to work on that. And you're being asked to take those costs out. That's the legacy stuff. Number 2, I am going to encourage you to start sitting down with your product teams that are rolling out new AI capabilities and saying, how in the hell are we going to price this stuff? How are we going to monetize service value? How are we going to make sure that we are keeping margin in play? That is a product and service conversation. That is a lesson that the Palantirs and Distills teach us. And the third thing is, you are going to have to retool your service business. It is not going to be business as usual. And again, George will talk about that in more detail tomorrow. So it's a lot of running we got to do. If you thought I was tired on that hill at the beginning, we're all going to be tired here in the next couple of years. But as JB has articulated and what I'm putting on the table here, we really do believe this is the era of services. This is not just a pithy statement we're throwing out there and make everybody in this room feel good. As we look at the data, as we look at how these business models are unfolding, it is clear to us there's no way you have a profitable tech business model in the world of AI unless you don't have a robust service capability. It is the era of services, and we look forward to building it with you. Thank you.